a loss down in South Wales to the high-flying Bluebirds has put us 22nd in the table, 2 points off the bottom. But with four home games coming up, you have to believe this is make or break for Noel Hunt and his coaching side. Here to join us this evening in a very stormy Maine, in a very possibly smelly track top, is Mr. Ross Webber. How
It's
are you?
I can't believe you've given away my secrets about
No,
the
don't
potential
tell me.
smell of my track top. Yeah, that's my own fault, really, isn't it? Made the rod for my own back.
Yeah, I'm just a massive blabbermouth. That's all it
Well,
is.
yeah, we all knew that. We're both podcast guys, though, so that's can you imagine having to be our wives? Just like, yeah, what's your husband doing? Oh, he's podcasting again. Like, yeah, that's so embarrassing to have to tell your parents that your husband's podcasting or something. So, hey, but, more credit to them.
Listen, I'm proud to host this podcast, mate. I don't know about you, but
That's
you
fair.
know, come rain or more rain, I'm
There's a certain level of there's a certain thing that's like attached to like podcast bros though. Are we
is that what
podcast
we are?
bros? Yeah, yeah. I think there's a certain
Podcast bros. I
yeah.
like that.
I just want to make sure that we're like the right kind of podcast bros. So
Yeah, it's there's always that thing about those finance podcast bros, isn't there?
right,
We're not
right.
that, are we?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. How to wear a Patagonia vest or die trying.
Yeah,
Yeah, they don't
that's
have the
good.
word
That's
gilet over here, unfortunately, though, so it can't get that fancy, I'm afraid.
like
So,
what do you call them? Body
I
warmers.
like a vest. It's just a vest, basically. I would still call it a gilet. I still do call it a gilet or like a puffer vest or whatever. But yeah, maybe that's the Jack Wills in me from when I was a teenager, you know,
Oh, mate.
from
Yeah.
that era. So anyway, speed us along, because I'll be here
That's
forever.
tickled me. Podcast bros. I like that. I
Yeah,
like that.
podcast
We've been called
bros.
some things over the years, but yeah, no, I don't think we've ever been called a podcast bro.
The
So
Codpass Bros. That's what we'll be.
yeah.
We're not podcast bros. We're Codpass Bros. So that's good. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, before we go any further, we have to raise a glass, quite literally, to Jackie Evans, who won. I
Mm.
think the official title is Stalwart of not of Reading. Hold on, I'm messing it all up here. Just stop a minute. Right.
The
So
stalwart of
Jackie Evans,
Reading.
if you don't know, yeah, so she won the Legacy Award at the Pride of Reading Awards last week. And
Oh,
for
cool.
for people who don't know Jackie, I think she's done everything at the club. She started off in the Elm Park days. I don't want to like age her horribly, but I'm pretty sure she started around the time that I went as a young boy in what 92, 93.
Hmm.
Jackie, honestly, I think at times has kept that club going. I really do. And she was anonymously voted in or kind of put up for this award as everyone is for the Pride of Reading, and honestly she's absolutely superb. She's still at the club today. She does a lot of stuff, so we just want to say well done, Jackie.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic on your award. It's Pride of Reading is a big thing, I think, really, and it's really great that they're in their 20 something season now. Well,
I
I
was
say
just going to
season, but
say
20
that
awards,
too.
20, 21 awards, 21 years they've been going, which is incredible. So
Yeah.
really, really well done,
Well,
Jackie. Like,
yeah.
honestly, it's
Congrats to
massively
Jackie.
deserved.
Obviously, that's massive, and also agreed like about the Pride of Reading Awards as well. And it's important, I think, for us as a podcast because obviously we get quite international at times, and we'll take things away from the area that the team are in. But we're all listening to this pod together or creating this pod together because we are connected to RG2 in some way. So yeah, important to stay. Yeah, important. It's good to hear what's going on with the awards, and yeah, congratulations, Jackie. Great to hear.
Yeah. Um, Big thanks as always to Voldemort. His series, not new anymore, is it? It's been out. But his series is on
Been
Sky
out.
Arts. He does a podcast as well, so you can check that out.
Yes.
And also to the Amazons. Amazons kick off their I'm just trying to find the tour dates. They kick off their tour.
Yeah.
No other
Yeah.
word for it.
Sure.
Tomorrow they're in
Musical
Bristol.
adventure.
Yeah, musical adventure. Yeah, exactly right. But they also won an award at the Pride of Reading.
Oh, well, that's fun. What did?
Didn't you know that?
No, I didn't. Because I didn't. You're telling me all
Come
this.
on, bro.
You are telling me all this now for the first time, legitimately. To be fair.
All right. Well, they won the putting Reading on the map winners.
Ah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I was really excited when you told me that they were the secret set at Reading, just 'cause I think it's cool that a Reading band were the secret Reading set. So yeah. Anyway, let's chat about
We should be up
Cardiff,
for an
shall
award
we?
next year, surely, shouldn't we? We should be getting something, right?
Uh,
Would you
I'm
come
not
over? Would
sure.
you fly in
I'm not
if
really
they
sure
said,
what
yeah,
kind
we're
of
gonna
award I
like
want. I think it'd be maybe something like the you know what the Razzies are? They're like the opposite Oscars, basically. Like, yeah, can we get the what's the opposite of Pride? Like the Shame of Reading Awards. That's what we'll go to.
well, look, if you want to nominate us next year, crack on.
Yeah,
Um,
best podcast
but we
bros.
don't do it for the accolades. We do it for you, the listeners. I'm pointing my pencil. But we do it for you. This is episode 430 something. Oh God, we're so unprofessional.
It's all gone to pot. Just go straight to it. Oh no. Oh my word.
Right, welcome back to episode 436 of the Tilehurst podcast. Ross lost to Cardiff. Better in some respects,
I think in a lot of respects.
same in others. Look, we said this last week on episode 435. It was highly unlikely that we would get anything out of the game, let alone a win. However, there has to be just a twinge of disappointment in both the players and I guess the coaching side, really, having gone 1-0 up through another Lewis Wing long range Exocet missile. Talk us through the positives first of all, because there were kind of green shoots, and we've really been banging that drum over the last couple of weeks about things not improving, and we're feeling we're getting stale as a football inside. Just talk us through some of those positives from Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that there were positives from Saturday for sure. I thought that this was probably Reading's best performance of the season. Obviously, it's ended in a loss, and that's disappointing. But I thought that this was positive, and like most of what I've been talking about over the last month or so is focused entirely on the football not being where it should be, and kind of taking that from where it's been over the last sort of 10 months. And this was better. There were some real improvements here, and there were some real things that were just very different from what we were maybe seeing a year ago under Reading. I want to talk about this is really so the line of formation. That's the stat that I'm going to be banging on about for a couple of weeks now, I've decided. But Reading, when they force their line of formation forward, are actually playing pretty well, and when it's a bit more reserved, it's not going so well.
Hold on, have you finally ditched XG and you're now line of formation? Is that what we do?
I know I sound
stat of the month.
Stat of the month. I know I've been banging on about XG a lot this month, and I'm going to do it again later, but I'm just giving you a different one to start off with. But line of formation basically just refers to how far from your own goal are you like setting your, like your back line, and how far are you like, pushing up the field. And if you go and look at the game against Exeter last weekend, when Reading were pushing their line higher up the field, closer to Exeter's goal in the second half, they played a lot better. Whereas in the first half, they had that line pretty deep, and they just, again, with that passivity that we talked about last week, it wasn't really working for them. Now, I thought that Reading came out of the traps against Cardiff, pushed that line pretty high up right away, and really did some damage with it, which I was quite impressed by. They showed a willingness to kind of adapt with how they pressed Cardiff. There was times when you saw Richie step all the way up and Lane step back. So you kind of ended up with this sort of two at the front of Marriott and Richie, with then Doyle behind them, and then Lane. I think it must have been, who's on the other side there? What's his name? Forgotten him now. But anyway, you had a 2-1-3. But it was Savage and Wing, of course. What am I talking about? The other two midfielders, obviously. Anyway,
I thought you were joking.
I just lost my mind. It's weird.
Savage and Wing, yeah.
Yeah, Savage and Wing, the main fulcrums of our team. Anyway,
carry on.
Yeah, so carrying on. So we sort of like if we wanted to push when they were going to like play out from the back, then we would push those two players forward. But then if they were pushing the ball, like over the top from a more traditional goal kick, we were actually able to shift back into that sort of 4-2-3-1 shape. So it was actually really good to see the team shifting through a couple of different shapes. And then individually, I thought that Kamari Doyle had an excellent first half, especially off the ball. Off the ball, he was exceptional. He basically followed, I think it was the number 14 for Cardiff, one of the sixes. He just followed him around and just wouldn't let him turn. So again and again and again, Cardiff would kind of feed the ball out to their fullback, wouldn't find a way around that way. They'd come back to their centre back, who would try to feed into the six, but Kamari Doyle was constantly sitting there, stopping him from being able to turn. And that just made a huge difference to Reading and the way in which they were able to retrieve the ball. And this led to more shots. Reading had more shots, more XG than the opposition. They had the most shots, I think, this season, in a Reading performance. I will say, we talked about how Cardiff are kind of a bit of a side in transition as well, and how they're also doing a bit of a rebuild. And obviously they've had, some resources that are greater than ours. They're only just coming out of the championship. So of course they've had those revenues for the last 2 years. But one of their big signings, was Gabe Osho, the old Reading player. He was really poor in that first half for Cardiff and had to be withdrawn at halftime. And I think some of that was, Cardiff also being in that sort of state of, being a new squad coming together and gelling it and things like that. And some things in their build up and all that not working yet, not being, tight yet. But the thing that was different is that they were able to press on in that second half. So I thought that overall through the whole 90 minutes, this was a much better performance from Reading. And I saw a lot of it, especially in that first half, coming through, pushing that formation lineup, being more aggressive, and then also through some really excellent out of possession play from Kamari Doyle.
We talked a little bit over the last couple of weeks about the potential Lewis wing problem, and I have to say some of the stuff on social media this week with people connected to Lewis wing has not been helpful really. There was a comment posted about potentially trying to get better support from the stands, which I understand from a partner or wife or whoever she is from Lewis Wing's point of view, but it's not helpful at a time when everyone needs to be trying to pull together, particularly from the stands. And I think when you look at the support, particularly away that the club has had, that was not a useful comment in my opinion to make. That aside, he had a pretty good game, I think. Given that he's been under par quite a lot, and hit the crossbar with a really, really nice free kick early on in the game. I've watched the goal back so many times. I can't work out if it was a really vicious strike for his goal or the goal he just got it completely wrong. Could be a bit of both. But
can you put a pin in Trot? Sorry, Ben. I'm just saying, put a pin in Trot, and we'll go back to him later, the goalkeeper for Cardiff. But yeah, please continue about Wing.
A pin in Trot.
Put a pin in that, what you just said about their goalkeeper, because I have things to say about their goalkeeper.
Right. Okay. Fine.
Please carry on.
But he. When you've got Lewis Wing in the pocket, anything's possible.
Right.
So it was really, really good to see him get back on the score sheet. I think he desperately needed that. Still a terrific player that we have in our ranks. And this is really, this is certainly my frustration, and I know yours as well, Ross, is that we have these good individual players, right? Collectively, for whatever reason, it's just not gelling. And I haven't once criticized the players really as a collective unit. We've said time and again, it's down to the coaching. We still have these really good players and we still have glimpses of what they're capable of. It's just not working at the moment. The other one that we really have to talk about is Paddy Lane. And I've literally written here, Paddy Lane, will he ever score again?
I feel really bad for Paddy Lane. I mean,
that one in the first half was like, come on, mate. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like, just blow it in the goal. Just do that.
Yeah. It is getting really late. It just gets worse because the more it happens to him, the worse it'll be every time he goes through, because he'll be thinking about those previous times. I do feel for him because I do think that he was better against Cardiff, and I'm not surprised that he's actually lasted pretty long into the game in the last couple of games because his conditioning at least is good, and he does seem, he goes down some periods like for a little bit, but then once he gets back up, he keeps moving. But yeah, I mean, some of those misses, I mean, the first one he's tried to go across the goalkeeper, and I think he's just telegraphed it a little bit too much. He's not quite found the kind of lift that he needs on it. The second one is just frustrating because there's so much of the goal to shoot into, and it's good. It's a good goal line clearance from the defender. Don't get me wrong, but he shouldn't have the chance to make it. It's the same as the Dorset goal line clearance in the first half. It's a good clearance. Shouldn't have the chance to make it, in my opinion. Reading have a real issue, by the way, controlling. I mean, we've had issues controlling the space behind or like sort of out wide near one of our fullbacks on various sides now forever. But if you go look at kind of like field control stats on Opta Analyst right now, you can kind of see that over on Matty Jacobs' side, on Jerry or Dorset's side, there's a real issue over there right now where the opposition are able to get up there, cause, an overload, whether that be from Savage having to be pulled out of position in the attack or whatever it is. Other teams are targeting that area in behind. And that's, of course, where did both the Cardiff goals come from that side or just one of the Cardiff goals? But certainly, there's the second one comes about. I see Dorset screaming at Lane to step to a player. It doesn't happen. And then Dorset is left to try to deal with a 2-on-1 and, is just out. You can't, he doesn't get close enough, but like that's not particularly his fault. There are just some communication breakdowns in there, but it came from, issues down that kind of left side. And I do think that Reading are having issues there as well. I will say again, this is an improvement of a performance though. I think that if we want to work things back, right, we had a lot of shots in this game and a lot of intent and a lot of direct play. And I liked that a lot. I think it suits the kind of squad that we put together. I think the players that we have probably want to play in that sort of, want to be able to be a bit more direct. But for all of that, Cardiff are still generating a lot more XG per shot. So about 0.13 XG per shot versus 0.05 from Reading. And I think that a lot of people will have come out of that game thinking Trott, the goalkeeper for Cardiff, had a really good game. I think he had a good game. I don't think he had a great game. I think he had, if you come and look at the kind of goals prevented, Matt, from that, what you're going to see is a lot of saves, but a lot of saves within sort of like the middle sort of half of the goal, as it were. So he's kind of had to face a lot of very powerful shots that were blasted sort of at him. Obviously, he's made a fantastic save from Paddy Lane. Don't get me wrong. In that first half, that's the save of the game, from any keeper. But I think that Reading basically produced a lot of shots. They looked more intent, full of intent. They looked more direct in this. And now the next step is kind of how do we create quality chances, more quality chances to actually shoot from, like Cardiff did, because the quality of the chance that Cardiff had was twice as good as the quality of chance that Reading had.
I think it's a frustrating game all around because we didn't take the chances that we did have. You talked about Trott in goal, and yeah, he was okay. He did what he needed to do. But when
he made every save that was expected of him and one more,
exactly,
is what I would say. He made every save that he needed to, and then he made one exceptional save from Paddy Lane. I would also take thoughts about some of the shots that he took in the second half that I thought were well saved, but I would counter with, but he's also letting a Lewis Wing skitterer that he's kind of stuck his foot out at, in the first half. So I think you kind of have to mark him down a little bit based on that.
And I think we are a club at the moment that we have to take those chances. On another day that could have been 2 or 3 goals to the good, and actually we didn't do that. When you defend like you did, or we did, particularly for the second goal, the writing's on the wall. Really, I mean that second goal, Salak, I think it was, if that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah,
he was in so much space. He probably could have had his dinner in the time that the ball came into him, and then he'd shot. He had that much time and space. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Can I explain why he had so much space briefly? Because, okay, so this is where I was saying where it starts with that Paddy Lane Dorset is asking Lane to step. Lane doesn't step. Dorset now is behind the play that gets played out. So then Porty O'Connor steps out to confront the cross and try and be that first man for the cross, which means that the person behind him has to step to Salak. That was Burns, but the communication there again. So it's like two small little communication breakdowns and then bang, bang, go. It is wild how small like those little things can happen right on the edge. But if they're happening right on the edge of your box, obviously, then yeah, you can run into some situations like that.
And both goals, as you said, came from that left hand side. And what have we said all season about the fullbacks? Just have some consistency there and coach them to be more resilient and a bit better in those situations. Like very, very disappointing result. Yeah, okay, Cardiff are now top and that's great for them. And we were playing a good team, blah, blah, blah. But, when we are now 2 points off the bottom, I think the pressure's on now, really. And I think, as we said the previous week, it's very, very difficult to back some of these comments that the ownership group are making because this is not where we should be. This is not where we need to be. And really, things need to start moving forward and we need to see some massive, massive improvements, not just in results, but performance-wise over the next 4 games, which are at home. All right, admittedly, one's in the FA Cup against a non-league side, but even so, there are 4 games there that we really need to get some points out of.
Yeah, we've had some unsteady times against non-league clubs
exactly
in
right.
the last few years. Even at home, Harbour Town last year was hey, that was one of the games that Chem Campbell really was pretty useful for. Actually, was the Harbour Town
Great game.
Yeah,
it's, fantastically enjoyable game. As long as we come on the right side of it, which we did in the end. But it's been a really, really bad start, really, really bad start. And when you're 12 games in and you've got 11 points, that's not okay. Not okay at all. I think certainly Northampton and Doncaster is a set of 2 games to begin with. We have to be looking for 6 points out of those. I really feel that if we don't get 6 points out of those games, that's going to be, the heat is going to be on then, and people are going to start asking some seriously uncomfortable questions of what is going on the pitch and in the dugout at the football club. So look, we go again tomorrow, Northampton at 8 o'clock, and then Doncaster at home, 3 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. They have to be both wins. They really do, because we're going to get further drawn into this relegation battle, and we've had a quarter of the season done, pretty much, just over. It's not looking good at the moment.
We're keeping the positivity. We want to try and keep some positivity going, and I think this week, is a good week for. I think it's good that the good performance came against Cardiff before we come into this week, which has 2 winnable home games, and we really want to see that. And I thought that also Reading had good periods in both halves in this game too, which was something that they haven't had so much in previous games. So look, you're 100% correct. Like right now, we're in danger of slipping into a relegation fight that we may not be able to get out of until much later in the season, and that paints a lot of your season in terms of the how the fans feel about it and things like that. And I'm not enjoying having to be there's much more debate, I suppose, going on right now in the Reading fan base. I guess I'm enjoying it to a certain degree, but like. Yeah, it needs to stay positive for Noel while he is still the coach. That is really, really important. Like the fans need to stay positive for him and the players while the games are going on to get that support across. But yeah, I think this is a really important week. We want to avoid slipping further down, but if we can get 2 wins, and one of them is the game in hand that we have on a lot of the other teams around us, then that will help take us up to at least lower mid-table, hopefully, and then maybe you can start building something of a more impressive season from there. But yeah, I think that unless these are both wins, you're looking at the absolute best case scenario for this season sort of being mid-table, I would say.
But you look at the spine of the team. So you've got Pereira in goal. There isn't another goalkeeper in the league I'd rather have than him. Jack Marriott, I don't think there's a striker I'd rather have. You could look at players that have hit a little bit of form. Obviously Salek we talked about at Cardiff. Don Ballard of all people at Leyton Orient, who's hit some form. I think he's got a hat trick the other week. But beyond that, there's no one really I'd rather replace, Jack Marriott with. And then in the middle, you've got Lewis Wing and Charlie Savage, who on paper are the best midfielders in the division. So there is the ingredients there. And
That
we've
was
not even talked
cheeky.
about.
That was
Well,
cheeky, but yeah, all right.
it's true, isn't it? But we haven't
I
talked
think
about any
Wing is,
defenders.
yeah, Savage is still like, there's other great players in the
I'm
division
still going to
too.
bang that drums.
I know you are. I know you are. Wing is in a slightly
There,
different
there are
class.
very few players across the league that I would swap any of ours with in terms of that spine anyway. In
Mm.
terms of those match winning players or those players that are going to save us points or whatever, you know. So they should be doing better with what they've got. They really should.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
it's a
think
sorry state of affairs. Blackpool propping us up, Peterborough, us, and Burton. It's pretty damning at the moment. But look, we've still got a mailbag to do, so let's do that. Let's see what's in there. 2-1 loss against Cardiff tees us up against Northampton tomorrow night or today, because you'll be listening to this on Tuesday morning. I always do that, don't I?
it's
Always do.
fine. Whatever. Time is relative.
And then Doncaster at home on Saturday. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but it really has to be 6 points from those games. Otherwise, I think that might be done and dusted. I would imagine it would be. 'Cause that would put us
Maybe
further.
we can talk about that more in the mailbag because I don't think it's happening for a long time now. I've not changed my mind on where I'm at in terms of the football, but like in terms of where I have to be as a person. So yeah. Anyway, we'll get there.
All right. Well, let's take a very short break and then we will do the mailbag. Right, so welcome back to episode 436 of the Tilehurst podcast with myself, Ben Thomas, and of course Ross Webber overseas.
Hello. What makes it a mailbag rather than a listener's corner today? What's the difference, please? It's just a bag
It's
today.
a good question. It's a really good question. I think because there's a few more there's a few more ones on here that feel like they might be letters that you would open.
Okay, yeah. That actually makes sense. Yeah. They've got a bit more of a sort of procedural heft to them, as it were.
Yeah. Actually, before I do that, because this is the bit where we sort of go off on even more of a tangent traditionally.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have a streaming service in America called Netflix?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, there's a program called Starting Five, which is
Okay.
about don't know if you heard of it, a sport called basketball.
Ah,
NBA.
yes, el baloncesto.
Yes, whatever.
Yeah.
And have you watched it? All
No, I
jokes aside,
haven't watched this. Is it
it's
good?
really good. It's
Okay.
really so season 2 or series 2. I was going to say dropped. Stupid. Came out.
Yeah.
Last week, I think, and it honestly, I love basketball. Is my second sport, right? I love basketball. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
play it.
No, I'm not very good either.
rubbish, but watching it, like if I lived where I mean, obviously Boston's quite a long way away from where you are, but like if I lived in a city that had an NBA team,
Yeah.
that'd be me.
I used
Every
to go to the
single game would be
Celtics. It was fun.
Did you?
Yeah, it was a good time. They have the main Celtics up here as well.
Okay.
But they used to be called the Red Claws. And they had like,
Because of the crabs,
yeah, because of the
lobsters.
lobsters. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So yeah, that was
Don't
kind
know
of
why I'm
fun.
doing
But yeah,
that.
no, you can still, but it's actually fun.
Could be
Like one
anything.
of the coaching, yeah, actually, I'll tell you what, a very brief basketball detour. One of the coaching sessions I do in the fall is in a basketball gym because it's like a futsal kind of session, and there's like a seniors ladies basketball game going on at the same time. It's my favorite, like amateur pickup thing ever. It's the best thing ever. They are like going for it, but then they're so like respectful of each other because they don't want to get hurt. So like I love it. It's my favorite. Like I just love the intensity and the safety and caution at the same time. It's great.
Honestly, basketball is. I love it. Absolutely love it. And the season starts this week, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So,
So if you're watching that, I think it's easier to watch in the UK now.
yeah, it's on Sky Sports, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, stop talking about American things. Let's talk about Reading Football Club. Right. Matt, MC981871, MC98.
You don't have to read all of the numbers.
Well,
All
it's
right.
nice to, isn't it? People have made the
Yeah.
efforts to create it, so I should acknowledge it.
Right. Right, you are.
the next two games are last chance saloon for Hunt. Yes, Matt. If they don't go well, you simply have to change. On the flip side, it's a good opportunity to climb the table. Current position isn't great, but table is very tight. Feeling could be very different in a week if we pick up 6 points. Well, let's talk about that really. I mean, normally we do this in the preview, but Northampton are 14th on 14 points, and Doncaster are currently 11th on 17 points. And just for context, we are 22nd on 11 points.
Mhm.
Doncaster are currently bottom of the form table over the last 6 games. So the actual league table doesn't really tell the true story there. And Northampton are just a little bit above where we are. In fact, quite a long way above where we are in the last 6 games. Just below Cardiff, having picked up 10 points from the last 6. So appearance is a little bit deceiving there because you'd look at Northampton and go, let's do that. But the form Doncaster are in could potentially be on paper and given form a slightly easier one.
Mm.
I mean, Matt's saying would pick up 6 points there. Mood is very different. 100% it would be.
It's a
But
really
do you think
congested bottom 12. It
horrendous?
should be worth, yeah, this is worth noting. So there are a lot of teams that have had middling to poor starts, and there have been some other teams like Reading that expected to have good starts that have had poor starts. And Reading, I've talked about a bunch of times, are not doing very well on expected points this season. Like they are where they should be. They're in the relegation zone in what are they, 22nd, I think, maybe. I'm not even sure, but they're 21st on
Yeah.
expected points. So they're where they should be. But there are a lot of teams within like 2 points of them. I think the next like 9 or 10 points up on expected points. And then when you break that out to the real table that's happening in real life and is not expected in any way, shape, or form, there are, 10 places within 2 wins of us. And that's Doncaster in 12th place. So there is a world in which, Reading kick on in the next month or so, have a good streak and they are doing fine for the rest of the season. Nothing spectacular, but doing fine. And these two teams are teams that are teams that we should be able to beat based on how they've been playing recently and how they played across the whole season, and the fact that even though Reading are down in the relegation zone, they have not necessarily been so much worse than these teams that are a little bit outside of the relegation zone. But I
I mean,
agree. Like these, go ahead. Sorry.
hypothetically, we win tomorrow night, tonight, whatever, Tuesday. God's sake,
Whenever
keep
it
getting a phase wrong.
is, yeah.
Whenever, um, we could be 14th.
Yeah,
Highly unlikely given other results and everything else, but the highest we could get to basically is 14th if we beat Northampton.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And like we've seen seasons kick on in November before, right? Like this is why again, kind of like I'm trying to be this is okay, so you've been saying this and I'll pull out some emails and some stuff that's on the other side of things too, and we'll talk about this article later. But I'm really I don't think that even if Noel I think only if Noel lost or drew both of these matches this week would he lose his job. I think with the open day thing that was going on and with the comments again from Kuig earlier in the season, I just don't think Noel. I think Noel is going to get a year in the job basically, and that would bring him into the first few weeks of December. And I regardless of whether I think that's the right thing from a footballing perspective or not, I think that is what is going to happen. So I'm kind of moving into this state of look for the positives, look for what is working with this team and praise that. And, I mentioned on
mm,
my video last week that I was frustrated with the mid block, frustrated with the passivity of the team. And the team play better when they move higher up the field and they are more aggressive and they take risks. And they did that against Cardiff. And so for me, the question is, did that work because it's a game kind of like the game against Birmingham away last year to start the league where it's like, all right, this is a free hit, let's go and show what we can do? Or is that a repeatable performance? That's what I'm going to want to see moving forward, because there are definitely positives from that game. But regardless of what the actual results, well, no, that's silly. I would like to get at least 4 points from these two games.
no, it
But
has to, minimum has to be 4.
that's your
Yeah.
four minimum. Yeah. I think that's what 3 to 4 for me. And the loss would have to be harsh, very harsh, like a smash and grab that's gone the wrong way, basically.
My concern about the Cardiff game is that yeah, they did play better, um, and they did seem to raise their game, but they still didn't win. And
Hmm.
actually, what does that do for the mentality of the team when they've kind of upped it, they pushed it, they've kind of in inverted commas gone for it, and you still don't get anything for your rewards. That's really the worry that I have from a mentality point of view.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen any evidence to suggest they're not playing for Noel Hunt. Like I don't, we've seen that in previous years with different managers we've had where it looks like players have down tools and gone, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. But I don't see that yet, and I think that's possibly the thing that is keeping the ownership group from making any changes. I might be wrong.
I know, I completely agree with you about that actually, because like a few weeks ago, or like about a month ago now, I was kind of calling it like a very Jose Gomez situation. But I remember some of
Yeah,
those last Jose Gomez games where the guys just stopped running. Like they literally, the team just stopped running. And when your team stops running, I mean, it's over. Like they couldn't be bothered anymore. They had no trust in like the setup or whatever it was.
yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah, like I remember like a particular time when like it's like not even that long into the game and like Pushkas like was like 20 yards away from play, just let him wander past him like it was nothing. I was like, what is happening here? That's not
Yeah,
happening. They were really fired up against Cardiff. They were ready to go. But again, it kind of comes down to can they get up for games at home against Doncaster in the same way that they can Cardiff away, which is one of the bigger, more tricky you would expect games of the season.
yeah. And there'll be a very low attendance tomorrow, and it'll probably be raining as it has been all day in the Royal Counties. So, can they do it in RG2 on a wet October evening against Northampton? Let's see what happens. I see referred to Noel as the manager and not just a coach. Is our coaching staff, in inverted commas, not up to it? Massive decrease since JOP and Gibbs left. Um, I mean, listen, we could do a pod separately on James Oliver Pearce.
We do
I
like
I
him.
I, I
Yeah.
don't think we well, I mean, I speak for myself here, but I don't think I've ever met someone who is as knowledgeable about the game as him. He was so underrated when he was with us, and
Certainly
look,
about
we
the
like we
modern
like
game.
Sellers for his philosophy, like his knowledge. But James Oliver Pearce was unreal when he came on the pod. Um,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
what have we got? We've got Ledgerwood and Scott Marshall helping him out in the dugout.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gibbs, I don't know. I mean, Gibbs has gone on to be at West Brom, I believe.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I,
It's
I,
tricky, isn't it? Like, I don't really. I think that there's. I think that it's a really hard time in football coaching, and I think that like things have changed a lot in the last like 20 years, and they're always changing now from like season to season. And you see like little tactical fads get picked up for a little bit, and then they disappear. Like the long throw stuff is what everyone's talking about in the Premier League this year, and that feels more like something like a fad that will go again after a year or two, rather than something that will stick around for a long time necessarily. Whereas like the kind of like three-man midfield shift in the noughties, that's been a pretty seismic change that's been in place now for a very long time. The way in which strikers are used is now changing as well, in that you see bigger men up front again. You see nines getting used. It's not necessarily kind of where we were with Klopp and Firmino and all of that. All of that to say, I think that when you're putting together a coaching staff now, you need it to be so varied. And I think that a lot of our coaching staff, we talked about this a little bit last week too, have had a lot of their like best coaching times in the era just before this, where again you saw a lot of these sort of three-man midfields that Hunt likes and things like that. But they were like much more physically I don't know, dependent, I guess would be the right phrase. Much more about, winning the duels, getting it out wide and working it into the middle. And that's fine. That can work really well. I think what we saw with James Oliver Pearson, why it kind of seemed very impressive, just because it's very like modern, his style, and very, all about like third man running and all these kinds of exciting things. So I think that they're both valid, to be honest. I think the part of the thing that we like so much about football is that there are so many different ways to play it. And they're all valid. Like I remember during the Guardiola and Mourinho at Barca and Real Madrid days, we would all debate about, whether it was better to be pragmatic or entertaining in your football and all of these kinds of things too. So look, I think that the coaching staff that Noel has there now are the coaching staff that he's chosen to be around him. And he's had, quite a while with them now. He's had, the end of last season. He would have had a good sense of what it was that he needed to bring in. And we brought in a lot of players over the summer, which would make me think that if we needed to, or if Noel felt that we needed to bring in another coach, he probably would have had the resources available to do that. There's a good article today that's kind of speaking up for Noel being kept by the club, that's published on the Tilehurst end. And that kind of went into that a little bit as well. So yeah, just want to give that a first shout out. But yeah.
Yeah, look, we have to look at both sides of the coin, and we said this last week. We can only share our opinions. The amount of years that we've supported the team and the position we hold, that we kind of, I say have to, don't have to do anything, but we have opinions because we watch the games and we like football and we think about things in a certain way. Sometimes myself and Ross don't agree, but it is really important that we get different views. And there's been two articles actually over the last couple of days that have come out on our site to give reasons as to why Noel should stay. And they're both 100% worth a read, because even if you don't agree and you're 100% Hunt out, it's good to see those different opinions. That's what makes football, right? That's what makes the Tilehurst and the Tilehurst then, because we want to share different opinions and get different views in. So it's definitely worth giving them a read.
Yeah.
But yeah, the coaching thing is difficult at the moment. I know they tried in the summer to get different people in, it didn't work, and it was all a bit protracted and all the rest of it. So yeah, the jury's out on the coaching, but certainly losing James Oliver Pearce is a big one. And you think about managers these days, they'll always try and bring in their own people. I read a really interesting article about Watford, who've had like an obscene amount of managers over the last 20 years. And it's more about the fact they keep changing the coaching team over as well, which I thought was an interesting take on it and a slightly different way of looking at it. Because actually, if you keep the coaching team consistent, but you just bring the manager in and change it around a little bit, it adds a different complexion to it. So, there are a lot. We could do a separate pod on the coaching side of it, but there's no doubt in my mind that they're all very rigid in the way that they're thinking at the moment, and they're all very similar, and it's a bit static in that department, really. So
as a follow-up to that, then, can I read the email that's sort of in that same sort of ballpark of speaking up for Noel? Because I think it comes in
it's your pod. You crack on, mate.
But yeah, I do think that the article that came out today on the Tilehurst end is worth a read, and it goes into a lot of the same points that I'm about to bring up from this email. So that's why I held this email, basically, because I knew this article was coming out, and I thought that they would be a good 1-2 sort of punch. But yeah, go and have a read of the article. It's from a gentleman called James Clyde. Posts on Hobnob anyone quite a lot. I think Sim started some beef or whatever, and the beef has developed this article. What happened? Because I'm not on Twitter.
For a weekend where he kicked off with everyone.
Right. We're really sorry, guys.
Laying waste to everyone in his path. I was like, all right, Godzilla, pipe down.
Jesus. Like, we try and keep him under wraps, but sometimes this is why we don't let him on the pod. He's always asking to come on the pod.
He's one of them. He'll lob a firework through someone's letterbox, but then he'll run away.
A madman. Anyway, go and read James's article, because look, I think it puts a lot of really good points up. I think in terms of the management of the budget as well, that was the part I found most interesting. Again, from a football perspective, my opinion is unchanged, but they make a lot of good points, and I think it's worth a read, especially if you are currently Hunt out. Anyway, let me read this email that came in from Royce. So it's talking about expectations, which I think is a fair thing to talk about. But Royce says, we've had a common focus for our negative energy over the past few years, and we are grateful for any successes on the pitch. Now, with the existential crisis averted, the negative energy of the fans is prematurely piling onto the manager. New players such as Paddy Lane and Matty Jacob are through their honeymoon period. It isn't clear they're better than those they have replaced. With the top goal scorers from last season, best defenders, including Binden's ability to carry the ball out from the back. The best winger, the forgotten Chem Campbell. I'm not sure about that one, but fair enough. All departed and their replacements looking all too average. Should we be rethinking our expectations for the season? So Royce is personally season mid-table consolidation and strengthening again next summer for a promotion push was his realistic target. They can learn this summer where the biggest gains can be made by improving a relatively stable squad with some targeted changes. This summer was filled with wholesale change and a lot of mud thrown at the wall. Can now see how all the new players are working out, and that shouldn't be a huge surprise. Yes, Noel may still not prove to be right for the job. We don't need to be naive, but the calls for him to be replaced started within 2 weeks of the transfer window closing, and that is unrealistic and knee-jerk. So this came just before the game against Cardiff this weekend. His last point is, we saw Sellers overcome a poor start with a reshaped squad, so we know it's possible. Spot on. If we're still in a relegation battle in December, then bring in a new manager to work with the January transfer window. So basically more, emails and things that are, more in that kind of keep Hunt camp. I think that, maybe sometime soon we need to go through a whole like squad thing and talk about, where the squad is this season versus last season. One of the things, and the reason that I bring that up again is because one of the things in this article that's on the site, again, really recommend you go and read it, is talking about the concept of sort of building wide rather than building tall and choosing to bring in a lot of players building wide rather than like spending your resources on like one or two really, really, good players or like the best assets you want to go after or whatever. And I thought that was a really interesting sort of attempt to explain what's kind of going on with the squad. I don't necessarily know how I feel about the squad at the moment. I do think that we have improved in a lot of places. I don't think that Jim Campbell is that good personally. But like
Stephen is just
another one we
second. So
stopped talking about him.
do?
Sorry, say again, Ben.
Stephen is just second. So
Yeah.
what can you do?
Well, yeah, there you go. Maybe it's the Chem Campbell effect. I know he's already got a couple goals this season. So, yeah. But anyway, I think these are all pretty valid points. My biggest concern overall from all of this, right? That my biggest push, comment back to all of the Hunt should have more time kind of things. And again, I think that he will get it. I think that he will get a year in charge. Is that for my money, we've seen enough games now whereby Hunt has shown us what kind of manager that he is and what kinds of things that he can coach into a team. And I don't see enough signs of improvement necessarily. They're under Sellers, we were still improving when he left. I think we were still able to, kick on and we were doing pretty well in the league at that time as well. So I just think that continuing to improve is something that's really important to show as a manager. And I personally think from what Noel's shown us in the 10 months he's been here, he hasn't shown us.
I mean, the difference there with Sellers is that he made the players around him better. Noel clearly trusted players, and I think that's a real positive, particularly for some of those younger players that need that trust. I don't think Sellers did that at all, but he was able to reflect and change and move forward in what he was trying to do. I don't think Noel's capable of that. So it's a good point because I asked you sort of 2 years ago, pretty much to the day last week or the week before, whether Sellers was close to losing his job, and I think at that point he probably was. Had there been someone around to be able to sack him, he probably would have done because the performances were really bad. It was a really toxic environment.
It was.
Leonor in a way where there was that confrontation, it wasn't good, and something just flipped, and we went on this great run, and he was fantastic. So look, we welcome all opinions, and we get a lot of views and a lot of questions, and we try and do as many as we can. So if we don't on a particular day, it's nothing personal. It's not because we're trying to censor you or anything like that. It's just because we're trying to get through lots of different questions to give a reasonably varied pod. So it's a good point, Royce, and thank you for emailing and sharing that, because I know these things take a while to to create
I
and
keep
think
forgetting
about. So
his
yeah, I
name is
appreciate.
Royce, so I should just like say that I'm just gonna like decide that that's my evil personality now, and then or my alter personality, and it'll like come out, like Royce and
Yeah,
Ross, like
Royce and
well,
Ross.
I
Yeah,
think
exactly right.
this, but actually, yeah.
Um, Tom Sheeran, did we go 4-4-2 in the second half? I thought we could have scored at any point if it weren't for some phenomenal goalkeeping. It's kind of what we said earlier, really, about the goalkeeper
It's a good
trot.
question though about the
Um,
4-4-2. I think
yeah,
it went a little bit 4-4-2-y at times. Because obviously Kelvin moved up next to Mara. Kelvin was exceptional. By the way, really
long
good.
Kelvin.
Yeah, long Kelvin. I
Yeah,
actually quite liked Kelvin, like
yeah, I did. I
less
did
long
too, actually.
Kelvin. What do we call less long Kelvin again? Small Kelvin? Yeah, small Kelvin.
I think we just went Calvin A.
Just Kelvin. Yeah, yeah. But anyway, yeah, I do think that one of the things that Reading showed an ability to do more in this game was shift into different shapes. And that 4-4-2 was kind of one of them that occasionally they looked to be in. But yeah, they looked good in the second half for large parts of it. They looked very direct. It's just a case of trying to craft an even better chance, but before shooting. Like there are some great saves in there, don't get me wrong. The Jacob one, for instance, is going to come to mind for some people, I'm sure. But it is very far out wide that shot's been taken from. So again, like these are all positives. But and then the next step is kind of like, can we make these now that we've created some chances? Can we make them better chances?
Um, Lord Bobbins to
Lord Bobbins.
Bobbinshire.
All right.
Bilbo Bobbins.
Bill Bobbins Baggins.
Well, what have you got? Anyone? Have you got one?
No,
No.
I'm good. No. That's all of me.
It'll come to you. It'll come to you as a really good
Yeah,
question.
yeah, yeah.
We we simply have in capital letters to start winning at home with a host of home games ahead, and Hunt is going to be running out of excuses if we don't win over half of them. The performance against Cardiff was an improvement, but they have to keep on improving game on game now. Yeah, look, this is the theme of the pod. There has to be a consistency of approach to performance, and if they can pick up some of those strands against Cardiff, then they should be all right against Northampton. Ironically, I've just noticed that on Saturday Northampton played Doncaster and beat them 2-1.
Oh, they did. That's funny.
What are the chances?
Yeah. Well, probably 1 in 46 or however many,
What, to play each other? Nah, it's
No,
gonna be
yeah,
more than
actually,
that.
I don't know anything about probability. I've just I've just shown my bare ass on the podcast to all the mathematicians out there. It's fine.
But yeah, look, he's right. I do feel that there are a growing list of excuses that are coming out, and yeah, they have to win the games. It's,
Yeah.
I'd sacrifice the performances now. I really would, just to get these results through the door.
That's true,
Um,
actually. Yeah. Would you take kind of like, I remember the game that we were together for last year was that Bristol Rovers game, and Reading were decent until they scored. And then after they scored, they were awful. And Bristol could have easily got back into that game. And I suppose it's like, would you take those, if you got two wins like that against Northampton and Doncaster, would you take it?
have to be.
Yeah.
We have to get that. With anything that pushes us out of the relegation zone, because we can start looking up then.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and I think they need to start finding ways to win football games.
yeah.
Like they're again a better performance. They should have beaten Exeter. And it's about like turning those draws into wins and turning those losses into draws and just actually taking those chances. I would imagine there's a lot of finishing practice happening at Bearwood this week based on the game against Cardiff. So yeah.
You got anything from Blue
I
Sky?
got one more from Blue Sky. So let me pull that up from and Ash, thank you for your note too. We kind of spoke about Lewis Wing a little bit, so I'm not going to go into that again. But Tom Baker, thank you for your message. Good performance against Cardiff. Let's hope the tactical changes aren't just a one-off. Tuesday night's an important match. Play again like Saturday. Hopefully we get a win. My question, what does Ben Elliott need to do to get on the pitch? So look, I like this one because I think that right now Ben Elliott doesn't deserve to get onto the pitch with the way that Kamari Doyle played against Cardiff. However, I do think that Ben Elliott is still a really valuable player. And last time I'll big up this article today, but again, go read this article, on the Tilehurst Den, and when they talk about building wide rather than like building high with the squad, James mentions that we may have kind of blocked a few players and at a crucial development stage with some of the people that we brought into the team who are a bit older. Obviously there are players that need to go out and need to go on loans and things like that. But there are also players that would have been hoping to get more first team minutes this year. And I think Elliott would have been one of them. But Kamari Doyle, who by all accounts was a pretty significant outlay by Reading to go and get, one of the better loan attackers in the league last year. Right now, he's kind of playing exactly where you would expect to put Elliott, and you're not going to move Savage out from the left side of that pivot. Wing is undroppable. He's probably, if Pereira's fit, he's the second name on the team sheet, but he's the first outfield player on the team sheet. Again, like I talk about this kind of Lewis Wing problem at the moment in terms of the tactical side of the game. I don't think that was necessarily the case on Saturday, and I think that regardless of where he's played, he has to play because he is so valuable to the team, as we saw. So. But yeah, Ben Elliott, he's in a bit of a tricky situation whereby there's no obvious spot for him that doesn't have a better player there ready to go.
It's difficult for him at the moment. It really is. But I think it's difficult for a number of those players, really. To not get on the pitch when he's swapping the fullbacks around, I think is, I mean, I don't have the words for it. To be honest, like, I think it's crazy. I really do. But that's where he's at. And, in football, you have to keep going when things are really difficult. And Ben Elliott's in a difficult moment through no fault of his own. I don't think he was fantastic in the cup games, in the Virtue Trophy games that he played. I think back to back he played West Ham and obviously MK Dons, and I don't think he was great in those games. But there's still a player in there, and I think he would be looking at it and going, "Come on, mate! Like you're swapping the fullbacks around. Like stick me on for at least 10 minutes. Like just let me do something."
That's another example of what good coaching can do, right? In that, like they spoke a lot, both Sellers and James Oliver Pierce, about what they could use Elliott for, and like getting him into that sort of like red zone in between the lines to then turn and attack the defensive line. And that's what good coaching or like very modern coaching can bring you, is that sort of like, this is how we work the ball here. These are the automatons that we work through to be able to get the ball out here. I know that if the ball arrives to me after this player took 3 touches, that I'm going to just move it on right away. I know that I'm going to adjust the tempo here. I know a Brafer. I quite liked a Brafer at the weekend. I felt a bit bad for him.
There's a player in there. We just haven't seen it consistently.
I thought he was really good. Like inverted fullback, he's pretty good for this league. I do think that like I said earlier this season, he was having communication issues with defending his seam, especially with Michael Stickland and sometimes with Finley Burns as well. So that indicates it's not just, one person. There's a couple of things going on, but still,
again, the defense hasn't been settled, has it? It's not been consistent. And if you're a fullback and every game you're going to get swapped by 60, 70 minutes.
Yeah, it must be hard to build up any kind of momentum as a fullback and sort of when to go and when to stay and those kinds of things.
I think there's confidence in those players. Otherwise, you wouldn't stick them in the first place and persevere with them. But those fullback positions at the moment are really fluid, and the instability in central defence, I don't think has helped anybody, let alone those fullbacks that are playing alongside him. So
yeah,
there's a piece of work there around just getting that defence consistent, and that's not really Noel's fault because of the injuries and everything else that's been going on. But yeah, I think there's a player in a Brave. I really do. I just don't think we've seen it. Well, I know we haven't seen it consistently, and as a result of that, rightly or wrongly, a lot of fans are on his back, and it's probably not doing him any confidence at all.
I think especially once, if we have a Des Williams and Porty O'Connor back, the both playing as the centre backs, then I would definitely play a Brafer because he allows you to do some very different things, and he can operate in different spaces. He can allow Wing or Savage to move forward and sort of sit in that same central position. One of my favourite parts of the game the other day was when he helped break inside and provide an overload in the middle of the park to get get Reading inside. And then once the ball came back to him, he fed it out to the winger and then made the overlapping run around. So I'm like, it's great. Like you're seeing like that traditional like fullback sort of work. Also with that kind of like modern coming inside inverted fullbacks thing. So yeah, I'd like to see a bit more of a Brafer, especially once, you know, we have solidified what that center back pairing is going to be. I think that a Brafer is probably the best option at the moment. Ahmed maybe with a higher upside eventually, but I think that a Brafer is doing a lot of good things.
Um, that closes the mailbag, doesn't it?
That
Seals it.
yes, there we go. Perfect. Yeah.
Seals it.
Zips up the bag. There we go.
Um, so we do a preview on Northampton? We should, shouldn't we?
Yeah, we
Do
should.
that.
We should.
We should.
Yeah, let's do
Let's
it.
do that now. Right, welcome back to the final part of the Tilehurst and podcast, episode 436. We're talking Northampton Town. Winners 2-1 against Doncaster Rovers at the weekend. Northampton boss Kevin Nolan.
Oh, classic. I forget
Forgotten
about
that.
that. Yeah. Good memories of the 2012 promotion run in, right? He was on that West Ham team at that
He
time.
was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Did a chicken dance in the goal, and
Did a
then
chicken.
they lost 4-2. So it's like,
Pretty funny though. So yeah, but now you
big
can go
loser.
back and laugh at it, so it's fine.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
funny run in with Andy Carroll too, if you'll remember from his Newcastle days when they used to live together,
Correct.
and he was basically looking after Andy Carroll. So, yeah,
Spicy bloke, Kevin Nolan. Very spicy bloke.
indeed. Wow.
Yeah, he believes the goals will begin to flow for Ethan Wheatley after the Manchester United loanee netted in the win over Doncaster. Wheatley grabbed the equaliser as Town came from behind with Sam Hoskins scoring one of two penalties to secure the win. Not my words, the words of the Football League paper, which is, of course, available anywhere you buy your papers.
I love how
And I said it for
dedicated you are to that paper.
no other reason other than it's a great paper.
Yeah. Do you pick it up when you go shopping, you know, and they have like the newspaper? You go to Tesco and they got like the newspaper like bins right near the front. Do you pick it up right away or do you get it on your way out?
I go out for that exclusively on a Sunday, yeah.
Okay, okay. I'll show you. When I'm in England, I like buying this, which is when Saturday comes.
Oh yeah, that's good. That
I like that one a lot, and I like the experience of going into a proper like news agents
you
and
sniff it
buying
as
them.
well.
Yeah, a little bit. It's got a Football League paper and right on the back there. There you
go.
go.
See, that's what I'm reading right now.
See?
That's what I'm reading.
Be close. University of Portsmouth on the front. I'll send this to you. There you go.
That's where I went.
I
went
know
to
you
University of
did.
Portsmouth.
I know you did.
Oh yeah, that's why you said it.
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
Great memory. Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, Northampton are pretty much right in the middle. 14 points, 14th place. Sort of mid-table in there in a form group after the last 6 games. 10 points from a possible 18.
Yeah. I don't know, whatever. They
Um,
came out I don't know, it's Doncaster actually, isn't it? I feel like we've sort of semi-previewed these games as the things gone
We
on because
have.
we talk so much about the
It's good
week.
because if we don't do it, someone will go, "Why'd you not do a preview?"
Yeah, well, no, we don't worry, we're doing it for a reason. But yeah, I know Doncaster came out of the traps flying, I believe, and they've fallen off a little bit in the last few weeks. But you know, I mean, like they're one of those clubs again that's like fallen quite a way below, where I remember them as a club. Yeah, they've lost 5 of their last 6, so they're in a real horrible state of things now, Doncaster. But both of those clubs are kind of like sitting around the same sort of area. They were sitting around the same sort of area predicted at the start of the season, expected like points and all those kinds of things. So they're kind of where they should be. These are teams that Reading should be beating at home. And Charlie Savage spoke about that this week, you know, like knowing that they draw their away games and they win their home games. And these are certainly, even if you want to be a mid-table team in League One, these are games that you're looking to win. I think, regardless of our feelings about the manager, whoever was in charge for this one, you'd be looking at 4 points as a minimum. And I really am kind of like thinking about the games as like as a two piece almost. Like I feel like the whatever happens in the first one is going to have a large say on how that second one feels, like how cagey it is. Because as you say, it's probably not going to be a lot of fans in the stadium on Tuesday night, which means that then, the actual outpouring, the next bigger outpouring of emotion will be on that Saturday.
Yeah,
And I
it's
hope that it's a positive result on Tuesday to drive into that.
yeah. I mean, I can't keep saying they must win games, but they don't beat Northampton Tuesday night. That's a problem. That's a real problem. And Saturday you would expect to be a larger attendance anyway because it's Saturday, start of half term in this area for a lot of schools. So it might be a good day to get the kids
Oh
out to
yeah.
football or whatever. Um, but it won't look good if they don't beat Northampton. Because technically, I don't know about other fixtures, but if Blackpool play and they win, Reading could be bottom of the table come Saturday if they don't get a result,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's a
That's what
problem.
worries you about. Like, that's the flip side to the worries. Like, so we were saying earlier, like, it is correct to say that there are other teams that had high expectations that have had horrific starts and been
Yeah,
playing,
of course.
really, really poorly. But the flip side to that is that means that you're saying the teams below us have resources. And that means that at some point this year, presumably they will start kicking on. Like, I feel happier. Something that's made like it a little bit feel a bit safer in League One in the last few years is that when you look, the league can be strong. It can have a team like Portsmouth or Birmingham in it. But when you look down at the bottom four, you would see a lot of teams like Burton and Fleetwood and Carlisle,
Mm.
and Port Vale, and teams that are just smaller than Reading. Like they have been
Yeah.
smaller than Reading in the 21st century, and they don't have the resources that Reading have. And the teams that are below them right now, if they start kicking on and Reading don't, there are some teams below them that have decent resources. So, and around that kind of area of the team of the league too, which suggests that they could also start kicking up
Mm.
the league. So Reading need to be kind of positioning themselves ahead of teams like Northampton, and Doncaster, so that if they go through another stretch of bad results later in the season, they're, insulated from that relegation threat. So yeah.
On paper, it's a really poor league. So, I said at the start of the season on our preview pod, which is still available wherever you want to, get your pods from. I said we finished sixth. Now to put that into perspective, that's Lincoln at the moment, 24 points. Reminder, we're on 11. Already, that's a massive gap, right? And I'm not saying it's all about me and I got to be right because I'm not. You said
I
second, for
said
God's
second,
sake.
mate, so I'm just keeping quiet.
But
Yeah.
Well, Stevenage is a second on 25 points. So
Sure.
the league, as you said earlier, is so congested at every part of it that you go on a little run. You do a kind of a Port Vale or a Bradford or whatever. In terms of the last six league games, you're going to move up a little bit. You
Can I
know,
briefly talk about Port Vale just real quick?
yeah.
Because it's and I bang on about XG, and it's annoying, and I get it, and especially because single game XG, like if you know your stuff with stats, you know that single game XG can be really deceptive. So like, it's been good in the last few games. Now we've got above 10 to actually have some sort of sample size to start playing around with. Port Vale have been one of the best expected teams all year. And when they came to play us, I think they were better than us, and we got out of that game with a win thanks to a really great Paddy Lane shot and Des Williams still being in the team and Pereira making some good saves that day. Now, like the reason that these expected models stick around is because they do have a tendency to, after a while, start to quite represent what's happening. Port Vale now undefeated in five, 3 wins on the bounce. So this is kind of like when we're talking about how are the team playing with those underlying numbers, this is why it matters because it can then turn into pretty quickly, some actual turnaround. Reading would kill for those 11 points that Port
Yeah.
Vale have picked up in the last five now. So, yeah, worth noting.
Another one to keep an eye on as we enter this new week of football. Thursday night, Exeter and Plymouth. Massive, massive game down the bottom of the table, both on 13 points.
That's a derby
Both
too,
next,
isn't it? That's a big,
oh,
big
huge,
derby.
huge game, mate.
Yeah,
You talk
Southwest
about
derby.
second city derbies, like the cauldron of Devon. I
Yeah.
mean, it's going to be fierce.
Oh, I mean, like there might be 16 people there. So I mean,
Yeah.
like that, it could be real dangerous, you know. The whole
Um,
ground will smell like fish. It'll no, I went to Exeter last year. It was lovely. I really
Oh,
liked it.
and all jokes aside, that's a massive game for us as
Yeah.
well. You know, they're 20th and 19th respectively, 13 points apiece. That, you know, given what we do on Tuesday, that could be a massive game down the bottom of the table, couldn't it, really? So
Well,
we'll
just a
have to
good
see how
game for
that
us to
pans
get
out.
some distance. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Look, it's all to play for as we close out episode 436. Thank you as always for joining us. We will keep
Yep.
going. We will keep going regardless of results on the pitch.
The Cod
I'll
Pass
still be
Bros will
here.
always be here for you.
Always, always.
Always.
Have a lovely week. Have a shower, by the way. Wash that.
Thank you. He's talking to me, listeners, not you. I'm just going to
Yeah, no,
confirm.
not you, listeners.
Right,
No,
right,
I'm
right.
sure you're very clean. And just be careful because that's a white top as well. So just, you know, separate your colours
I
and
will
see what
do.
happens.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Yeah.
Um, we'll see you for episode 437 next week. We will talk about Northampton. We'll talk about Doncaster. Hopefully 6 points that sees us in the dizzy heights of mid-table by the time we speak to you next. Have a good week, everybody, and come on, you R's.